maintaining a sustainable fishing company, it actually really starts before you actually ever get on a vessel or on a fishing boat and actually go out to sea. It starts specifically in understanding the science of how much fish you can actually take out of the water. I think the biggest impact, the potential impact that we could also have beyond actually extracting the fish out of the water is actually the impact on the benthic. So you want to ensure that the sea floor is taken care of. We've done a lot of experiments and trying to understand, because at the end of the day, you can't really manage what you don't measure, So we've been working over the last few years as a part of our certification, but as a sector, is just to sort of understand how quickly, after we've fished, how quickly the benthic or the sea floor is able to rejuvenate or regenerate. What we've done, which was arguably the most important aspect in managing that part of our impact in the ocean, is ensuring that we only really fish in certain areas. What that does is that it means that effectively your footprint becomes a whole lot less. Obviously, we do have operations where we do make our products, and obviously the fish that is caught is then transported effectively back to land, and we then have to process it and effectively have the final boxed product. With that also comes a lot of responsibility from an environmental perspective. I think the three critical items that you really have to look for is to ensure that you're utilizing water sustainably. From, I guess you can look at it holistically in a climate change perspective, but energy usage. So whether it's energy from electricity and how much electricity we use within our operations to ensure that our refrigeration processes are quite energy efficient, and also to ensure that the machinery we use for other aspects in the production line are energy efficient. Then obviously the second part linked to climate change from an energy perspective beyond electricity would be really to ensure that our vessels minimize the impact on the environment through the carbon emissions, but then also all other aspects within the business. We always try, find and do practices to ensure that, number one, again, you can't measure, you can't manage what you don't measure, so to ensure that we measure it correctly, but then also put in a few practices in order to ensure, like fishing intelligence, knowing where you're going to go and fish instead of, I want to call it, sailing around aimlessly to try and find fish, to have a more targeted input into where exactly you're going to go in order to minimize the amount of time you're in the ocean, and thereby minimize the amount of emissions that your vessels have. Having an MSC certification is pretty much everything when it comes to a sector or company that engages in wild capture fishing. I think primarily because it really gives consumers and customers a good way to be able to measure whether or not what they're picking up off out of the freezer is actually sustainable.